of the advent of the war on drugs, the Supreme Court had no recourse but to designate all other courts of general jurisdiction as drugs court. So now all courts in Davao City already try and hear drugs cases. Second is, with the influx, the court calendar cannot accommodate everything. For branch 9, for example, calendar cases amount to around 120 cases, calendared for one morning. We cannot expect that these cases will be called, all these cases will be called. At most, you will be hearing the testimony of a witness for 2 or 3 cases. The rest will be rescheduled to a later date. It's actually, you're actually lucky if you get a resetting for the next, 3 or 4 months. Because in some cases, the resetting is already next year. So you can imagine you have your hearing here, your next hearing for resetting will be next year, January or February next year. So actually, one of the needs for the successful prosecution of criminal cases is also the additional creation of courts. Because although we have additional, let's say for Davao, we have 3 additional RTCs, regional trial courts, but physically, they do not have an office. They do not have a court. These 3 additional courts, they share courts. So the hearings of that court, of the host court and the guest court, it will be divided, TTH, MWF. So what they did, let's say for branch 52, hearings are done at the IVP office. For branch 53, most of the hearings are done in jail. And for branch 51, it's at the old canteen at the Hall of Justice. So you know, there are a lot of limitations. So that's why it takes a lot of time to prosecute. And it's an average. If you do plea bargaining, you can finish it in what, 6 months time? But if you really go through all the merits, you go through all the motions, you go to a full-blown trial, I think it's around 5 years, right? For the second question, how much? When I was in private practice, we had a policy in the office not to accept drug-related cases. But from other defense lawyers, I heard that's only at the police level. She gets to represent the accused at the police level. That's not yet at the prosecutor's office or at the court. That's already 80,000. So that's only acceptance fees, sir. And then if you add the appearance fees of the lawyer for court appearances, for the submission of pleadings, so maybe around 350,000.
Thank you, sir. The data is parang a simplified case na that's as presented. It's simplified, but hearing from you, it seems to be very, very complex. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, anyone would like to make a follow-up question? I am giving you a chance to ask. You might have some things in mind because you have heard in the news or like in the television. Yes, sir? Did someone raise his hand over there? No one. It was just my imagination. Okay, so no one? All right, so at this point I would like to say thank you so much, Chief Superintendent Robert, Prosecutor, okay, sorry, Prosecutor Robert, Michael, and Razon. May I request Dr. Alan Meisel and Dr. Lourdes Generalao to award this certificate of recognition to Senior Assistant Regional Prosecutor Robert, Michael, and Razon for delivering an insightful talk to speaker in the first international conference on inmates' transformative education for successful re-entry, signed by Dr. Lourdes Generalao, USAP President, and Dr. Alan David Meisel, SEPBI President. afternoon. And our last speaker is representing the Regional Director of Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, Region 11. We've heard a lot early this afternoon about PDEA and PNP. So I would like you to think and listen, and if you like to, ask your questions to our speaker. Our speaker is the Acting Assistant Regional Director of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency Region Office 11 and the Senior Managing Partner of... Oh, wrong. Okay. Our speaker finished Bachelor of Arts major in History at the University of San Carlos in Cebu City. He was also a member of the National Movement for Free Elections in the 1986 Philippine Presidential Snap election assigned at Danao City, Cebu. Also, a reserve AFP officer, having finished Advanced Summer Camp Training Course, Scout Ranger Orientation Course, Heliborne Operation Course, at the 3rd Army Training Group, 3rd Infantry Camp Lapu-Lapu, Cebu City. He also finished his Bachelor of Laws at the University of Mindanao, and he is a member of SWAT Class 2013-01. Our last speaker is no other than Attorney Ben Joseph O. Tishorna. Okay. He's actually there outside looking for a space to park his car, So okay, so I would like to announce that you will not get your certificate of appearance unless you give your evaluation forms. Okay? Just making sure that we have something that we can check on how to improve this conference the next time that we're going to hold another one. And after our last talk this afternoon, we will have the general forum, of which questions that you have in mind since the first day that you were not able to ask, or you are now ready to ask, please feel free to ask your question. We have the microphones on the aisles. We have here on the left, on the right wing, and we have also the center aisle. And another one is, if you haven't yet checked the display at the back, we have some products made by our female inmates of the Davao City Jail, Ray of Hope. You can find their products at the back, reasonably priced, and you can check actually the quality is pretty nice. So our speaker has just arrived. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, our last speaker from PDEA, Attorney Ben Joseph O. Tishorna.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to ask apology for being late. Alam nyo na maraming obligasyon, no? Can I proceed? Okay. My topic today, this afternoon, is about the evolution of PRRD's war on drugs. No? At first, sanali, tuan muna. Okay. The order of my presentation would first be the creation of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, and then PRRD's marching order. Kung sa to ihang what was or what are his orders or ano ba yung instruction niya regarding the war on drugs. And then after which is the evolution of PRRD's war on drugs. And then the last will be the assessment and recommendations. Pursuant to RA 9165, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency was created. Ano ba itong RA 9165? This is the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. No? This effectively replaced RA 6425. It was signed on June 7, 2002, published on June 19, 2002, and took effect July 4, 2002. Upon the passage of RA 9165, all operating units involving anti-illegal drug operations were temporarily suspended. It was centralized under the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency. The problem is, during the time, during the implementation of RA 9165, there were yet no agents coming from the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency's academy. No, so what we did was composite, no? Operatives coming from different enforcement units, from the AFP, the Philippine National Police, even the Bureau of Fire. No? So, composite ang team ng PDEA before. But when the PDEA Academy was established, and the first batch of graduates came out of the academy, then we started to make sure that only PDEA agents will be bringing the name of PDEA. No, right now, those operatives who came from other units before were given a chance. Either they would be retained with PDEA or they would go back, report back to their mother units. Those who opted to remain with PDEA were required to undergo training at PDEA Academy. Bakit? Why is it so? So that the line of thinking of all operatives would be isa lang, only one. No? It would be difficult if the training would be coming from different orientation. No? So at present, those agents of PDEA are graduates of PDEA Academy. During the inaugural speech of the President, which was on June 30, 2016, this was his order: stop the drug problem by all means that the law allows. Emphasis should be put on the phrase that the law allows. No, even though we conduct anti-illegal drug operation, we should still uphold the law. Walang shortcut. No, I'd like to disabuse your notion that we would circumvent the law just to follow the orders of the President. The order of the President is we would operate within the bounds of the law. No? You might be asking why, at the onset of the administration of the President, he adopted a hard stance as against illegal drugs. He declared war. And when you say war, there would always be casualties. Both from the side of the government and on the side and on the opposing side. No? Could you still remember the slogan adopted by the President during his campaign? Tama, which is tapang at malasakit. No? Our problem as regards illegal drugs is not a joke. In fact, even at present, the President has already been sitting as President for more than a year. But we are still far, far away from solving the dangerous drug problem in the Philippines. No? We still wasn't able to achieve 100% eradication of this problem. And honestly, I think it would be impossible. to 100% or totally eradicate the drug problem in the Philippines. Even the US, the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, which is given a budget much more than the budget being given to us, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, cannot solve the drug problem in the US. And who are we to say that we can 100% eradicate the drug problem in the Philippines? No, it's impossible, I tell you. But what we can do is we can effectively reduce the proliferation of the drug industry in the Philippines. Barely a month after he sat as president, this was again the directive given to us by the president. Double your efforts, triple them if need be. We will not stop until the last drug lord, the last financier, and the last pusher have surrendered or put behind bars. This means an unrelenting campaign against illegal drugs. Masagasaan na ang masagasaan. We can do anything about it. If you want to address the drug problem realistically, we really have to do drastic means. But it does not mean that we would, again, disrespect what is being provided for by law. We still have to operate within the bounds of the law. Sad to say, Tokham, which was very effective here in Davao City, was wrongly implemented when it arrived in the NCR, or the National Capital Region. I'd like to explain this, especially to those foreigners who are here. Tokham means Tok Hangyo. Na and Hangyo is trying to plead. No? Meaning, if the policeman would go in a particular area, what they should do is knock on the door of the houses of those who are suspected to be involved in illegal drugs. And then, we would try to reason out with the occupants that if possible, they should surrender their family member who is allegedly involved in illegal drugs to avail of the program being offered by the government, which is either reformation or rehabilitation. The problem is, when this was implemented in the National Capital Region, instead of just knocking on the doors and trying to plead to reason, trying to put reason on the minds of the occupants of that particular house, the problem is sometimes it would result to the death of the subject, which is very, very wrong. Because your primary purpose of going to that place is trying to reason them, to give a chance to that person who is allegedly involved in illegal drugs to reform. The law enforcers are not there to kill. They came there to reason it out, to try to convince that person to reform. What happened in NCR was that most often what happened is the subject would be killed. And then the law enforcement would say, lumaban, or the subject fought it out with law enforcers. That never happened here in Davao City when that program was first implemented. During the time of President Duterte, way back when he was still mayor of Davao City. No? I was already with PDEA, that is why I can say that those incidents never happened here in Davao City. No? Another program in the government was the Taphang. What is Taphang? Tapok Hangyo. You will try to gather those who are allegedly involved in illegal drugs and then conduct training, conduct seminars, and try to convince them to stop their involvement in the illegal drug activity, which was also successful. That is primarily the reason why President Duterte won as the president. Because he was able to prove to the whole nation that the programs that he was implementing in Davao City were successful. And these programs can be cascaded or can be applied to the whole nation. But the problem is, there were some members of the law enforcement community in the National Capital Region who are involved in illegal drug activity, either as main players or as protectors. So what they did is they were trying to do some in-house cleansing.